But before we get started, I just want you to know that this is the first time I've presided over a meeting, so bear with me. So first is to call the meeting to order, which we're going to do that. And item 2 is approval of agenda. There are no changes to the agenda, and I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll move we approve.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Okay, we'll move down to recognitions, none. Visitors, none. And we're going to do a little something different here under administrative personnel appointments. But first of all, we're going to have Mr. Chambers. He's going to recognize some teachers, and we're going to do that first. So, Mr. Chambers.
I appreciate it, Mr. Bryant and the board. And first of all, I would like to say it's wonderful. I know it does all of our hearts well to see so many people here tonight. And tonight we're going to do something a little bit different as we talk a little bit about our state rankings and our academic performance. But I just want to start off by saying when you're within a school district, it takes each and every employee in our school district to make a difference in the lives of students. And we are fortunate tonight to have with us a group of teachers, and a group of teachers who not only had high academic performance, but who are also leaders in their schools. But I want to say also from the beginning that the teachers who are here with us this evening, they are really also a small representation of the amazing teachers that we have in this school district. If we were to invite every teacher who had outstanding academic performance, we would have to leave this building, and we probably would have to go to the Civic Center, and we'd have to rent out that place because of the amazing teachers that we have in this school district. But before I go there, I do want to say this. I'm going to give a quick overview. So it's interesting when you look at our academic performance in our school district. You know, we are one of only 3 school districts in the state of Florida to achieve an A rating every year since the more rigorous assessment started, and that's back in 2016. So one of only 3 districts to do that. Then you look at 7 schools improved at least a letter grade this past year, something that makes me extremely proud because as you know, the teachers, the administrators who are out there, the hard work and the dedication, the commitment that goes into doing something like that. We had 25 A schools, which represent 69% of our schools were an A. We had 10 schools that were B. 97% of our schools were either an A or a B school. And you look at that throughout the state, that is something that we should absolutely be proud of. Now, Mr. Hort and Ms. Lightbourne are going to go into more specifics into the data, so they're going to do all of that. But one of the things I just wanted to do was recognize a number of teachers and put a face to the data. But I do want to just reiterate, we could have this entire place filled times 10 because of the amazing teachers that we do have. And we also have some of our principals who are here tonight who are here for our teachers and want to recognize them as well. But I do want to start by saying this. And if you would, when I call your name, if you would come up front, and we are going to take a picture. Ms. Gay Deverona from Longwood. Ms. Adelia Slade from Northwood. Tracy McClellan from Florosa. Karen Letzinger from Shalimar. Jordan Appleberg from Bob Sykes. Jane Olson from Longwood. Diane Weech from Mary Esther. Crystal Daniels from Northwood. Cynthia Mainley from Elliott Point, Taylor DeStito from Lewis, Heather Costa from Antioch, Adina Majors from Laurel Hill, Terry Murphy from Edge. You always know when Edge is here. Tiffany Plunkett from Baker, Gordon Brown from Wright. There we go. Katie Blansett from Crestview. Gina Emery from Niceville High School, Pat Martin from Ruckle, Sarah Smith from Davidson, Kristen Keeney from Davidson, Shannon Anderson from Davidson, Tina Magoon from Kenwood, Elise McDonald from Kenwood. And if there are any other teachers who are here tonight and the principals who are here supporting these teachers, if you would come up and let's give them all a round of applause.
Occupy yourself. Thank you. I don't know.
Everyone say Okaloosa.
Okaloosa.
Thank you.
So you want to? Okay, well, one thing I did fail to announce is that we do have a public hearing at 6:15, so at 6:15 we'll adjourn the meeting and do a public hearing and then go back. But at this time, we're going to move down to Section 5, Administrative Personnel Appointments.
So we're going to finish with the academic.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Chambers.
I appreciate it. I apologize. So once again, absolutely fantastic. And Mr. Horton, if you'd come up.
Thank you, Mr. Chambers. Just want to spend a few minutes, board members, and for the folks in the audience to kind of go over the outstanding performance results for the district this past year. As Mr. Chambers said, our district ranks very highly as it relates to all of the assessments at the state level. So again, 4th in the state this year. And he mentioned the percentage of our schools that are A's and B's, and that's something that occurs every year. So we're typically right at the top of the state as far as that goes. Particularly important to me is the performance since I'm a math teacher, in algebra and geometry. Those are the two highest mathematics levels tested on the statewide assessments. So Okaloosa came in at 2nd in the state in both of those, and in 8th grade science, again 2nd in the state, which is a great indication of the readiness of our students to take on challenging rigor in STEM fields and other career technical areas. So those students have a great head start and are positioned to do well in those areas if they keep working as hard as they have in the past. So I congratulate them. Ms. Lightbourne is going to talk a little bit, and let me back up one slide. I want to spend just a minute or two just making sure everyone had a refresher on the school grade components itself. And so obviously the state tests our students in grades 3 through 10 in English Language Arts, ELA. They also test us in grades 3 through 8 for math, algebra, and geometry. And then in the sciences area, 5th, 8th, and biology 1. And in social studies, civics, and U.S. history. And so all of those assessments and the results of how our students do go into the creation of our school grade. Some additional components or factors in the school grade in each of those areas that have a prior year test. So for example, history does not have a prior year test so that you can calculate students' learning gains, because it's important for us, and the teachers will say, for each student in a year's time to make a year's gain academically or more. So that learning gain component is critical. It's just as critical as the proficiency part. And so the state grade is made up of both of those components. And then as you move into the middle school and high school area, it's not just proficiency on these exams and on learning gains on these exams from year to year, but it's also on indicators of acceleration. So in the middle school area, whenever we can get our students to take and pass industry certifications, which we have many of those in our middle schools, that helps the school grade. When our students pass algebra or geometry end of course exams in middle school, they're accelerated and they can earn acceleration points toward the school grade. And then finally at the high school level, you have acceleration pieces such as advanced placement, ACE or International Baccalaureate passing exams, dual enrollment completion, and industry certification. And then, of course, at the high school level, graduation rate is a component of school grade. So a lot goes into it, and it's really daunting for the schools and the principals to focus on all of these areas and produce the kind of results that they did this past year. So they're very much to be commended. I'm going to let Ms. Lightbourne talk about some of the more specifics, and then we can answer some questions if you have some.
You're hitting the button for me.
I will.
Okay. So first I wanted to take you to our ELA FSA data and our state rankings. And I like to look at the cohort group and because that's apples to apples. So not necessarily 3rd grade to 3rd grade, although we don't have a cohort for that. So we do have to do that. But 3rd to 4th, 4th to 5th, etc. So So in third grade, we do realize it's apples to oranges. We did dip a little bit this year. That is something that will be a focus for us coming up next year. We realize that third grade scores are not just incumbent on third grade teachers. We realize that we have to prepare our students in K2 to be prepared for third grade and that difficult assessment that they have to take as third graders. So we're working on some special programs for for our struggling students in third grade, some new programs that focus on phonemic awareness and phonics, which our most struggling students have problem with. So that is something that we'll be focusing on K3 in hopes that that will support our third grade scores. So again, apples to oranges, but we do have a focus there. But then I want to take you to each of the next cohort groups. So if you look at our third grade students last year, they were ranked 9th. And now you look at those same students as fourth graders, they're ranked 4th in the state. Fifth grade ranked 11th last year, ranked 6th. Fifth grade last year was 5th, now 4th as sixth graders. 6th grade to 7th grade went from 9th to 8th, 8th to 6th, and 7th to 8th. And then we had a dip in 8th to 9th from 10th to 12th, which is not a big dip, but a little bit of a dip. And then 8th to 8th in 9th to 10th. We have seen both in our ELA and our math scores, those transition years are difficult years. So 6th grade transition year into middle school, 9th grade transition year into high school. So those are some of our other focuses this year that we've spoken to the principals about, is really focusing on what are we doing to support those students during those difficult transition years. And I believe third grade is even a transition year because now they're taking this high stakes assessment. So those are all pieces that we're looking at. You'll see the same kind of data. So again, ELA, every grade level, we went up in state ranking except for one. You'll see the same thing in math, every grade level. Third grade went from 3rd to 4th, 9th to 6th, 11th to 5th, and then in 5th grade, we went from 5th to 16th. So 6th grade is a target, our 6th grade, that transition year again. So that's one of our major focuses for next year. But then if you look at 6th grade this past year, and look at where those students are in 7th grade, they went from 17th in the state to 4th. So, and we do have some different things that happen in 6th grade. Our extremely strong math students skip 6th grade math and go straight into 7th grade. So we do realize that as well, but we still want to be competitive in the state. So that's a target area, again, a transition area that we're looking at to support this next year. But every other grade level improved in the state. So we're just very, very proud of that. And then I have to mention geometry, and I know Mr. Horton said this, but last year we went from 6th to 13th in the state in geometry, and so that was a major focus for us this year, and look at us, we're now 2nd. So proud of the hard work that our teachers put in for that to happen. And again, that one's apples to oranges, we understand that, but still an incredible improvement.
Ms. Lightboard,
So,
if I
yes.
can at this time, can we stop real quick and do this
Certainly.
public hearing?
I was on
We'll
a roll, Ms.
I
Bryant.
know you are, and I hate to be there, but it is 6:15 and we do have a
Sure.
public hearing, so if you would move
Okay.
down to section 17.1. Let me get down there myself. And I'm about to call this meeting out of order, or call this meeting to a public hearing. And at this time, we're going to do 17.1, public hearing for adoption of the elementary and secondary code of student conduct for the 2019-2020 school year, presented by Brian Humphrey, Specialist, Student Services, and recommended by the superintendent for approval. Is there anybody here in the general public that would like to speak on this particular item? School board members? Okay. I'm looking for a motion to approve.
I so move.
Okay. Dr. Kelly?
Second.
Second by Mr. Dessen. All those in favor? And it passes. Okay, we're going to adjourn. And now we're back into That's how it works, folks. So, all right, Ms. Lockmore, go ahead.
Okay, now you've ruined my flow. So our science data, fifth grade. If you look, we've stayed pretty consistent in the 62 to 66 kind of range of proficiency over time. But you can also see how that changes in the state. So it's just interesting to me, because we can't look at cohorts in science because we don't test every year. We can only look at proficiency, and again, that's apples to oranges. But we're continuing to work in fifth grade, and ninth in the state isn't bad. If we can stay in the top 10, I'm pretty proud of that. Eighth grade, phenomenal, second in the state, and then biology 14th. So we're still working a little bit, but you can see our proficiency hasn't changed all that much over time. But state rankings kind of go up and down depending on how other districts, and sometimes when you really dig into it, some of our smaller districts have a big change because of the different group of students, and that makes a difference in the state rankings. But that's our science. And then we have the same situation in U.S. history. Seventh in state, still very proud, and civics, 79% of our students proficient, eighth in the state. And I did want to bring up with civics, Mr. Chambers and I were talking, and we've been out in the community, and there are community members who believe we do not teach civics. We teach civics, and we're eighth in the state in civics. I want that to be on record because that is important for everyone to know. We not only have a course in civics in middle school, but then it is part of the curriculum in high school.
And that we never stopped. We heard that for a year on the
Absolutely.
campaign trail. This district never stopped teaching civics.
Absolutely. Yes. So that was really what I wanted to end with. Are you doing the last one? Okay. Just incredible scores. Very, very proud of the improvement. Our teachers and our students, everybody has worked so hard these past years, and we're just proud of the efforts that everybody has put in. And we have one more little accolade for a few folks.
Thank you, Mrs. Lightboard.
Thank you. I'll be brief. So obviously, when you're looking at recognizing folks, a small percentage of the folks who deserve to be recognized and will be recognized ultimately are here tonight. We looked at our school grades and the improvement that was made. You heard Mr. Chambers say 7 of our schools improved a letter grade. But what was marked to me was that we had 7 schools that improved their school grade total by 50 points or more. And so as I mentioned all those components of it, a school may have 600 or 700 points available to it, or depending on the grade level, but we had 50 schools on our district that improved by 50 or more points on their school grade total. And those 7 schools were all Title I schools, and I think that they are worthy of some special recognition. Again, we could find something very strong and positive with every school in the district, but in this case, it stuck out to me that these schools improved by 50 points or more. So if we want to recognize those schools right now, Ms. McSparron, are you here? Yes. Come on up here for a minute. Just to break. So Shalimar's school grade total increased by 82 points from last year to this year, which is phenomenal. And we do have 1 or 2 principals that were unable to make it tonight, so I apologize for that. Ms. Ard, are you here? Elliott Point improved by 76 points on their school grade calculation. This one, there's been a little bit of a change, but I know that Ms. Matz is here. And is Ms. Curley here? Was she able to make it? And Ms. Wagner. As you know, Ms. Matz is now the principal at Plough Elementary for the upcoming year. And I saw Ms. McAllister somewhere in the crowd, I think. But at Riverside, the school improved by 71 points on their school grade calculation. Mary Esther, Mr. McClellan is not able to be here this evening, but Mary Esther improved by 63 points on their school grade calculation. And then Ms. Massey. If you haven't noticed, Dr. Hale's doing some innovative things with social media. Florosa improved their school grade by 60 points. Miss Martello and Miss Craig, I believe. And so Laurel Hill improved their school grade calculation by 54 points. And those of you who are familiar with the district know that Laurel Hill's, being a K-12 school, doesn't have high enrollment, so that means it could be extremely good or maybe not so good depending on the performance of your grade levels. So they do a really great job of focusing on every single student. I want to say something that I believe to be fact. The middle school component of acceleration, I said, was either students doing well on the algebra exam or earning industry certification. For Laurel Hill, their middle school acceleration was 100%.
Well, Mr. Horton, I do want to make a comment on Laurel Hill since I do represent Laurel Hill. It is the smallest school with the biggest heart. So if you ever get a chance to go visit Laurel Hill. It's a great school. So.
Absolutely. I couldn't concur more. Excellence in small things, excellence in all things.
Yep. And then finally, Northwood Elementary, and Dr. Good was not able to be here tonight, but improved their school point total by 51 points this year.
You have to stay home. Come, girl, come.
There you are. Thank you.
So I'd like to wrap this piece up, and then some of the board members may have some things to say as well. So do me a favor really quickly. So because we could have other people who were teachers as well. If you were ever a teacher, just raise your hand. So it's interesting. So you look throughout the room right now, and we say this. So teaching, I ask teachers this when we go around and we do the school grades. So I always say, raise your hand if you are teaching because of the A+ school rating, or raise your hand if it's because of school rankings. And that's not why you're here. But all of you know the hard work and the dedication that our teachers do, that our ed support, that they put forth, the amount of times that you're buying lunches, or you're getting clothes, or you're getting shoes, those extra things that you do after school in terms of the tutoring. All of those are the things that make a difference in the lives of kids, and it's not necessarily the state rankings, even though it's nice to have good rankings, but it's what you do each and every day in the lives of students. And to our principals and our assistant principals who are out there, I do want to say, you know the hard work, the dedication that you put in each and every day. Some days, just like our teachers, it can be frustrating, but without the work that you do, we would not be the school district that we are. So just thank our principals, our APs, and once again, our teachers and our entire school district, from our secretaries to bus to food services, for the work that you do. This success this year is based on what you all do each and every day, and couldn't thank you more.
And board members, I'll start with Ms. Vanchek if there's anything you'd like.
Well, I am so proud, and as a former Okaloosa teacher, I'm just so excited for all of you. It's just a neat thing. It's wonderful. The challenges you've had have not been without distractions in the last couple of years. So congratulations, and enjoy this time, and keep up the good work. We're so proud of you, and it's just great to be in Okaloosa County Schools.
Dr. Kelly?
Well, I'll just say while they were speaking, members of the staff, that it dawned on me, first of all, how grateful I am that I'm not in the principal chair anymore. These other people I know from the minute they got the scores in, just like the district staff, they were there peeling back the layers of the onion already, looking at subgroups and looking at who the specific students were. But also when they were talking about following the cohort groups, that is so important because in our district, particularly we were located in a situation where everyone wants to teach here, that we share students across county lines, sometimes across state lines. I know that to be particularly true of Laurel Hill, and many times across school zone lines. So knowing that we make it work and we learn our students no matter where they're from, we take them as we get them and we move them as far as we do, that is really phenomenal and another thing to be equally proud of. So again, I'm just so proud to have been a teacher and an administrator in Okaloosa County, and so much prouder of those who serve today, because the bar continues to be raised up even beyond what it was when I was there. So thank you for all you do.
Mr. Destin?
Well, I just was going to put it in perspective. When we ranked third or fourth, there are, I believe, 67 school districts in the state of Florida. So that puts us ahead of 95% of them. A little fuzzy on the math there, but it's very close. And this is all due to many of the people that are in this room and the ones that are in those classrooms every day, and the administrators that are trying to keep things on balance. And they've done an outstanding job, and I thank all of you.
And I would just like to say that since there's principals in here, and I'm going to kind of take something away from my school board minute, but Ms. McSparron, Ms. Ard, Ms. Hayden. Ms. Hayden's not here today. I didn't see her. But I just want to say thank you for all that y'all did last year to get to where you are this year. And I know y'all worked hard. And I see Ms. Mikda's in here tonight. And Ms. Jones, do I see y'all? Raise your hand. I just want to say to y'all, I had a chance to visit your school the other day, and I just want you to know that great things are going on at your school, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen next year. And to all of the principals that are out here, we have one of the best school districts. We have the best school district out there, and it's because of your leadership that we're where we are today. So thank you very much. All right, Mr. Chambers, we're going to move on to appointments. So we're going to move down to item 5.1, appointment of Assistant Principal 2, Edge Elementary School, recommended by the superintendent for approval. Mr. Chambers, you're up.
All right, Mr. Bryant. So I bring before you all Miss Kathy Anderson. Kathy Anderson is a proud product of the Okaloosa County School District, attending Ruckle Middle School and graduating from Niceville High School. After her graduation, she attended Okaloosa Walton Junior College and then received a degree in business from Florida State University. Miss Anderson knew her true calling was education and received her certification to teach through the University of West Florida. She continued her education at UWF, where she received her master's degree in educational leadership. She began her career by completing her student teaching experience at Plough Elementary School 31 years ago. After being hired at Plough, she taught 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 5th grades, Project Child, and she was a National Board Certified teacher as well. Ms. Anderson served as an adjunct professor at Northwest Florida State College, mentoring students who were deciding whether a career in education was for them or not. This experience continued as she served as a mentor teacher to new teachers, as well as struggling teachers, and was certified as a peer evaluator. She has served on SAC and school improvement committees and has extensive training in many aspects of technology and was certified as a digital educator. Ms. Anderson is greatly appreciative of the many administrators who have mentored her along this path leading to serving in administration, including Dr. Lamar White, Dr. Shelley Arneson, and especially Ms. Carolyn McAllister, who's here also with us tonight. Ms. Anderson has a 22-year-old daughter who couldn't be with us tonight because she's in the midst of a busy exam week at UCF, where she is pursuing her master's degree in speech and language pathology. Of course, she is an FSU graduate as well. Ms. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chambers. All right, do we have a motion?
I'll move.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? If not, let's vote. Okay. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness, overwhelming. Thank you so much to the school board and to Mr. Chambers for this opportunity. I cannot tell you. Oh my goodness, look at the blue. I'm sorry, I have to look this way
That's
just a little
okay.
bit, but I am so excited. Thank you to the Edge family that has reached out and made me feel so welcome already. I can't wait to serve underneath Dr. Sam Dawson, who is just an incredible leader, and work with the staff, the faculty, the students, and the parents at Edge every day. And I'm ready to go right now. And I can't not reach out to my fabulous 31-year family right there at Flew Elementary where I began, and they'll always be a part of my heart, no matter what. And I am blessed. Thank you.
Now, there's plenty of room over here. Come over this way.
Up on the stage, girls, come on.
Okay, at this time, we're going to move to item 5.2, and that's appointment of Assistant Principal 2, Meigs Middle School, recommended by the superintendent for approval. Mr. Chambers.
Yes, sir. Mr. Bryant, I bring before you and the board Mr. Robert McElroy. Mr. McElroy is a proud product of the Okaloosa County School District. He attended Plough Elementary, Ruckle Junior High School, and Niceville Senior High School. Upon graduating from high school, Mr. McElroy enlisted and served our country in the United States Navy from 1989 to 1993. After his honorable discharge from the Navy in 1993, Mr. McElroy attended and obtained his Associates of Arts from Okaloosa Walton Community College. He then attended the University of Florida, which we won't hold against him, where he was awarded a Bachelor of Arts degree from the College of Liberal Arts and Science. Mr. McElroy was accepted into the Pro-Teach program at the University of Florida and received his Master's of Education in Social Studies in 1999. Mr. McElroy started his career in public education with Okaloosa County in 2000, where he taught social studies to the students of Bruner Middle School, Lewis Middle School, and Fort Walton Beach High School. While still teaching at Fort Walton Beach High School, Mr. McElroy made the decision to obtain his master's degree in educational leadership from the University of West Florida. In 2019, Mr. McElroy joined Baker School as the Dean of Students. Mr. McElroy is married to Lauren, and they have 2 children, Bobby and Katie Jo, that are also students in the Okaloosa County School District. Mr. McElroy.
Thank you, Mr. Chambers. Okay, we have a motion to approve.
I move.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
Second, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? If none, let's call the vote. Congratulations.
All right.
In spite of Mr. Chambers' comments about Florida Gators, I still like him and hold him in highest esteem. With that, I appreciate your faith in me to be an administrator in the school district. Board members, I appreciate this opportunity to serve Okaloosa County School District and the students that we have in our school, especially at Meigs Middle School. I'd like to take the opportunity, if I may, turn around. I was thinking the other day, it's been brought to my attention a couple times. We had this witty little statement that teamwork makes the dream work, and it wasn't just true at Baker, but it's also at Meigs now. And I thought about a movie that really kind of stuck with me as a child, and it was The Karate Kid, where he had Mr. Miyagi. And Mr. Miyagi, for me, in my endeavors to becoming a school administrator has been all of the people who have had an impact on my life. My family, my mom and dad, my wife, my children have supported me through this endeavor to be here this evening. Joe Tucci over there at Fort Walton, I mean, you helped me reinvent myself, and I'm here because of you. Mr. Martello and Mrs. Hurley unselfishly gave of themselves, their time on their own personal time, to pour into me to be the best young man that I can be, not only as an educator and an administrator, but also as a good person. And I appreciate that, and I value that, and I'm looking extremely forward to the opportunity to be with my new family over at Meg's with Miss Lamb and Miss Smith. Wednesday will be here in a couple of days. It'll be Wildcat Wednesday. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yep.
We've got a basket.
Thank you.
It's got lots of goodies in it. Happy. It's a very happy basket.
It's actually a locker basket. So it's
All right, go Wildcats.
Go Wildcats.
Okay, we're going to move to item 5.3, and that is appointment of assistant principal to Walker Elementary School, recommended by the superintendent for approval. Mr. Chambers.
Sir. Mr. Bryant and board, I bring before you Miss Mandy Lopez. Mandy Lopez is originally from Leland, North Carolina. She graduated from East Carolina University with a bachelor's in elementary education and then moved to Fayetteville, North Carolina to teach in the Cumberland County school system. She spent 4 years teaching there, during which time her husband was completing the Army Special Forces qualifications course. Ms. Lopez's family moved to Okaloosa County in 2013 on military orders. She began teaching at Edge Elementary and shortly thereafter began working to complete her master's degree in educational leadership from the University of West Florida. After 4 years of being an Edge Tiger, she served as a district ELA instructional coach for 2 years, supporting curriculum and instruction needs and presenting professional development to the teachers of Walker Elementary School. Through these years of coaching, she learned the value of collaboration within a professional learning environment in order to meet collective goals. Ms. Lopez is a proud military wife and enjoys spending family time with her husband Kevin and daughter Lily. She is extremely excited to continue her time at Walker, serving the students and staff in a different capacity, all while growing as an educational leader. She's appreciative of the support she's received and feels honored to be recommended as the assistant principal of Walker Elementary.
Thank you, Mr. Chambers. Okay, we need a motion to approve.
I'll move.
Okay, Dr. Kelly,
Second.
second by Mr. Destin. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Congratulations.
So my daughter told me as I was walking up here that I get one shot to give this speech, so no pressure, right? So first of all, I'm so very appreciative in the confidence that the board members, Mr. Chambers, have in me to be the assistant principal at Walker. I definitely look forward to serving alongside Ms. Carnley and the staff at Walker, and I do realize it is a great honor and privilege, so thank you so much. Go Walker! Woo-hoo! Spirited group.
Okay, congratulations to everybody, and at this time, we're going to do a customary adjournment, just so everybody that was here for the appointments can have time to get out. So we're going to adjourn for 3 minutes. I lost my bet, but that's okay. I said we'd be done by 6:45. Thanks, Mr. Jacob. I'm sorry. No, but it was well worth it. Started back at 6:45. There she is. Okay, we're going to call the meeting back to order. And at this time, we're going to move to item 6.1, which is public comment. And we do have several blue cards tonight. And this is members of the public desiring to address the school board, Form MIS. Let me get my glasses on. 5241, public input and/or discussion of agenda items. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to our school board attorney. He's going to set the ground rules, and we're going to move on from there.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. Each of the speakers tonight will have 4 minutes to make your presentation.
Okay. And we're going to go in order that I received the cards. So at this time, when you do come up, would you please state your name, your address, please, for the record. So at this time, Peggy Mitchell, if you would please come. And before you get started, Mr. McInnes is actually the timekeeper tonight. He will let us know when there's 15 seconds.
Okay, I don't think I'll take that
Okay.
much of your time this evening. My name is Peggy Mitchell, and I'm a resident of Okaloosa County since 1994. I'm here again to address the board with the issue of asking them to put a referendum on the 2020 March ballot to allow the public to decide if we should change the method of selecting a superintendent from elected to appointed. I know you allowed us to speak at your workshop last Thursday, and we showed you some information and some statistics. And it got me to thinking about looking at those statistics, as Ms. Kelly pointed out. Sometimes they don't really reveal the entire story. We also recognize, it's kind of like what Ms. Lightbourne recognized, that it's comparing apples and oranges. I know as a school teacher, they used to take our 10th grade class and from one year and compare it to the 10th grade class from the next year, and we're going, but they're different students. And we think the same thing is true about our voters. We know our county has grown exponentially, and many of our voters are coming from counties and states where they have always, or in the past, have hired superintendents. They don't know the process of electing because they're coming from with the military, and they're coming from Texas and North Carolina, and they have hired superintendents there. I think there are only 2 states left in the United States that elect their superintendents. I think one is Alabama and one is still Florida. And among those counties in Florida, there are many that have chosen to hire their superintendent. So what we are again trying to do, and again too, looking at the statistics, there's no way to predict exactly who's going to come out and vote. We think we have responsible voters, both Democrat and Republican. There's no partisanship with this particular issue, but it's allowing the public to vote and select. They've never had an opportunity. They've never even known they had a method of changing selection of a superintendent. I never knew that, you know, and the only people who can do that for the public, for the voters, is the school board. You are the only ones who can make the resolution to put it on the ballot March 2020 and give the public an opportunity to vote to change the method of selecting our superintendent from an elected position to a hired superintendent, in hopes that we'll have better accountability for all, not just our teachers and staff, but everyone included in our educational system.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Okay. We're moving on now to Danielle Pierce. Ms. Pierce, if you're in the audience, if you would please come and state your name and your address for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Danielle Pierce, and my address is 229 Windward Way, Niceville, Florida, 32578. I'm thrilled to be here this evening. I'm here as a proud parent of an Okaloosa County student. I'm here as a concerned citizen, and I'm here as a voter. I am here to urge you to put through the referendum on the March 2020 ballot. Mary Beth Jackson is gone, but the problems that she left behind are going to take a lot of work to repair. It's going to take a lot of time. We need accountability and we need transparency. We need the change, and we've waited long enough. The issue of appointed versus elected is critical. If the voters decide appointed is what they want, it will propel the district toward transparency and accountability, and we need it soon. Rather than having Mr. Chambers campaign for his job, let's rally around him and let him focus on the monumental task of restoring the faith in the school district. If we don't vote in March, the referendum will get lost on the ballot. A March vote will give the issue the attention it deserves. If we don't vote in March, we are guaranteed to be in the same hopeless and powerless position we were in with Mary Beth Jackson for 4 more years. Please don't do this to us. If we don't vote in March, the qualified candidate to lead this district may not win the election. Please don't do this to us. Show us that you understand how we feel and that our voices do matter. I implore you to allow us to vote in March so we can move forward. 3 years of the scandal has been enough. There really is no meaningful justification for a 16-month delay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we're going to move on to our next speaker. That is Dr. Teresa Ryan. If you're in the audience, would you please come forward, state your name and and the address for the record, please.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Teresa Ryan. My address is 252 Old Post Road in Niceville. And again, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight, and
Ms. Ryan,
congratulations.
or Dr. Ryan, if you would
Let
come
me
to
go
the
that
mic.
way.
Thank you very much.
Oh,
I have
yes.
to be reminded too that there's a microphone in front of me.
Well, see, what almost got lost was saying congratulations to you for that excellent report that you shared with us tonight on the health of our school district. I want to say I am also the proud parent of an Okaloosa County school student and a registered voter. I'm also a professor at one of our local colleges and a retired Air Force maternal newborn clinical specialist and combat casualty researcher. My professional life mirrors my personal conviction to the well-being of children, education, and always looking for the best evidence to guide practice and policy. As a military officer, I have participated in many promotion boards, reviewing records for past accomplishments and potential for future Air Force leaders. As a college professor, I have watched the hiring process for educators, department heads, and administrators. These processes allow a roster of the most qualified candidates in a method that emphasizes professional credentials. By having a superintendent that is appointed after careful scrutiny by our elected school board, I believe that the pool of candidates eligible and best suited to carry out the vision and mission of our school district would be greatly increased. Qualified professionals would not be subject to the financial burden and time commitments of organizing and running a political campaign. This current school board has shown a commitment to positive change during a very turbulent time and the willingness to listen to a populace that has elected you to this most important of duties. I believe that all of us here in Okaloosa County would benefit by moving forward now to the referendum under consideration as soon as possible. Putting the referendum to the voters in March is another important step in implementing a culture of accountability here locally and investing this board with the authority you deserve to ensure that the expectations and responsibilities of our superintendent of schools are met. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Ryan. Okay, we're going to move on to Ms. Pamela Whittle. If Ms. Whittle is in the audience, if you would please come to the podium, state your name and your address for the record, please.
My name is Pamela Whittle. I have been here since 1991. I'm not a public speaker, and I'm kind of uncomfortable with this, and I live at 261 Old Post Road in Niceville. And first of all, I'm a mom, I'm a grandmother, and I'm a voter. And I have an interest in our school district because of all the negative attention the school district has received. I feel a referendum is in order sooner rather than later, and it would be in the best interest of all students, teachers, and parents, and most of them are voters. So thank you for listening to me.
You did good. It wasn't that bad, was it? All right, thank you. Now we're going to move to Miss Christy Moore. Miss Moore, if you're in the audience, if you would please come to the podium, state your name and your address for the record, please.
My name is Christy Moore. My address is 218 Jacob Drive, Niceville. And as you recall, I came to you several months ago and maybe got all this started and said, could we consider this? So what I want to do first is just thank you for for considering this and for allowing others to speak and for moving this forward. And you've heard many good reasons why we need this referendum, and I'm just going to ask that if you decide to move forward, please decide to move forward and place the referendum on the March ballot. To me, as a voter, it makes sense that we decide this before we get to a general election, because there's no sense having a superintendent campaign for a position if it turns out it's going to be appointed. There's better ways to spend time and money. It also doesn't make sense to me as a voter to look at one side of the ballot and say, okay, vote for superintendent, and then turn it over and say, okay, decide if you really want to vote for the superintendent. that seems counterproductive. So I'm asking you, when you consider to place the referendum on the ballot in March, let the voters decide in March, are we going to move forward with an appointed superintendent, in which case there's one path, or do we want to go ahead and do we want to keep what we have? Do we want to elect a superintendent, so at least people will know going into the general election? But I do think it's important that it gets on the ballot, and please consider March. And again, thank you.
Okay, thank you for coming. Okay, we're moving on along. Miss Mary Richard. Ms. Richard, if you would please state your name and your address for the record, please.
My name is Mary Richard, and I live in Crestview, Florida. I have been a resident of Okaloosa County for about 30 years. I have had 4 children go through Okaloosa County schools. I have now 6 grandchildren going through Okaloosa County schools, and I love Okaloosa County schools. All 4 of my children have graduated from college and have come back to live in this area. We love this area, and I always love to see improvements going on in the school district. And so I come to you on behalf of what I believe to be an important issue, and the referendum is it. I want the voters of Okaloosa County to have a voice in this, and therefore I feel that the referendum, just like the lady before me said, it's a waste of time to have it on the November ballot. We can get at least put it before the voters early enough so they can understand that they do have a choice. Like you said, in November you have it on one side and then you have the opposite saying on the other side. So it makes no sense at all. Give them the opportunity in March to say yes or no, and we'll have our answer. So thank you very much, and go Okaloosa County Schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Richard. Okay, next we have Samantha Lambert. If Ms. Lambert is in the audience, would you please come to the podium, state your name and your address for the record, please?
Hi, I'm Samantha Lambert. I live at 10 Rudy Leroy Street in Fort Walton Beach. I spoke to you before about having a referendum on the ballot to allow the voters to see if they want to change from having an elected superintendent to an appointed superintendent. It definitely needs to be on the March 2020 ballot. Again, I agree with the others. It's going to be lost in November. I grew up in the school system. It's a great school system, but just because that's the way we always did it doesn't mean it's always the right way. And if we can put as much emphasis on choosing a football coach in this county, then we need to put a lot of emphasis on choosing a leader for this county. And you guys are the school board. You are the leadership. So please put the referendum on the ballot in March of 2020 and let the voters of Okaloosa County decide. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Carol Webster. If Ms. Webster is in the audience, would you please come to the podium and state your name and your address for the record, please?
Hello, Mr. Chambers and board members. My name is Carol Webster, and I live at 5848 Hunting Meadows Drive in Crestview. And I echo the sentiments of all the speakers before me, so I won't repeat them, but I would like to ask you to please support the referendum in March that will allow the voters to express their preferences about the superintendent and perhaps support the appointed as opposed to elected one. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Webster. Okay, we're moving on now to Ryan Flynn. Mr. Flynn, if you're in the audience, would you please come to the front? And again, state your name and your address for the record, please.
Hey there, my name is Ryan Flynn. I live at 1571 Meadowbrook Court, Niceville. I'm a parent of 3 children, one of which who has autism, will be starting at Okaloosa County School System here soon. I would like to see these changes, hopefully, and at least give the chance for the voters to decide on this March ballot. And if it's not, I mean, it unfortunately delays things. My son would almost be timing out of school by the time changes would be enforced. I would like the power to be in y'all's hands to hopefully have these changes, or these issues never reoccur. I mean, I'll be short. I'm not great at public speaking too, guys, but
You're doing good.
I am willing to advocate for my son and wanting to try to make the decisions that's going to be best for him. And right now I see this as an opportunity for it to be on the March ballot, and I think we should move forward with it. Thank you.
Yep, thank you, sir. Okay, we're going to move on, and even with my glasses on, this is going to be a little harder, but let me make sure. Miss Bonnie McGregor, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, Miss McGregor, if you would, please come to the podium, state your name and your address for the record, please.
My name is Bonnie McGregor. I live at 428 Marion Drive, Niceville, Florida. I've been a resident of Okaloosa County for 32 years. I formerly taught high school in Michigan, and I am a grandmother and guardian of 4 children who have been in the Okaloosa school system. I think that part of the reason that people like to come to Okaloosa County is because of the quality of our schools. I was so impressed when I saw how creative and how hardworking our teachers have been in not only keeping our schools at a very high level, but improving them. And I think we need to be as creative in trying to solve this problem that we've had with the superintendent of schools. I would feel much more comfortable, and I feel that most voters would, if this body was to vet and choose the superintendent of school. Being able to run for an office and win is not the same as being the superintendent of schools. We would like to know that the person that is chosen is agreeable to all of you, and I understand that there's also a parent component to the vetting process, and I would like to see this done in the excellent manner that the rest of the school system has been handled. I thank you for your time, and I hope you will put this on the March 2020 referendum.
Thank you, Ms. McGregor. Okay, and we do have one last one, and that would be Mr. Patrick Ryan. Mr. Ryan, if you would please come to the front, and again, state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, it's Patrick Ryan, 252 Old Post Road. I cannot top anything that these citizens and voters have said. So, thank you, I'll withdraw my blue card.
Okay. All right. So we're going to move on the agenda to item 7, committee and staff reports. This is workshop only. 7.1 is in-county travel paid for the period of June 20th, July 3rd, 2019, presented by Rita Scallon, Chief Financial Officer. Item 7.2 is out-of-county travel paid for the period of June 20th, July 3rd, 2019, presented by Rita Scallon, Chief Financial Officer. And 7.3, quarterly report, short-term facility use contracts and lease agreements paid under the $5,000 threshold, presented by Vince Wyndham, Program Director of Purchasing. 7.4, quarterly report, service agreements under the $5,000 threshold for internal and budgetary funds, presented by Vince Wyndham, Program Director of Purchasing. And 7.5, quarterly report, service agreements for law enforcement, presented by Vince Wyndham, Program Director of Purchasing. And now we're going to move down to item 8, which is consent agenda. Item 8.1 is the approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Destin.
I'll second.
Second by Dr. Kelly. All those or any discussion? All those in favor? And the motion carries 4-0. We're going to move down to section 9 now. And this is, let me get down there. This is human resource recommendations, the superintendent's human resource recommendations. Item 9.1 is information only. It's employees on administrative leave, presented by Dr. Lee Hale, Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources. Item 9.2 is for information only. Deferred Retirement Option Program drop, presented by Dr. Lee Hale, Assistant Superintendent, Human Resources. 9.3 is an action item, and that's cleared certification requirements and insurance of contracts for the 2019-2020 school year, presented by Karen Peak, Program Director, Professional Services, and recommended by the Superintendent for approval.
I'll move we approve 9.3.
Okay, we have
I'll second.
Second. Any discussion? If none, we'll vote. Motion carries 4-0. 9.4, add a field report for the 2019-2020 school year presented by Karen Peak, Program Director of Professional Services, and recommended by the superintendent for approval. We need a motion.
I move.
Ms. Vancheck makes a motion.
I'll second.
Dr. Kelly with a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 4-0. 9.5, personnel recommendations presented by Dr. Lee Hale, Assistant Superintendent, Human Resources, and recommended by the superintendent for approval.
I'll move it.
Dr. Kelly makes a
Second.
motion. Second by Mr. Destin. Any discussion? If none, let's vote. Motion carries 4-0. 9.6, employment separations, presented by Dr. Lee Hale, Assistant Superintendent, Human Resources, and recommended by the superintendent for approval.
I move.
Motion by Ms. Vancheck.
I'll second.
Second by Dr. Kelly. Any discussion? Seeing none, let's vote. Motion carries 4-0. 9.7, reinstatement, reimbursement of sick leave due to line of duty, illness, injury, medical examination, presented by Dr. Lee Hale, Assistant Superintendent, Human Resources, and recommended by the superintendent for approval.
I'll
Move we
move.
approve.
Okay.
I'll second.
Mr. Destin made the motion. Dr. Kelly seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? And the motion carries 4-0. And finally, 9.8, leave without pay, presented by Dr. Lee Hale, Assistant Superintendent, Human Resources, and recommended by the superintendent for approval.
So
I
moved.
move.
Okay, Mr. Destin got it?
That's right. I'll second it
Ms.
then.
Vancheck, second. Any discussion? Let's vote. In favor, 4-0. Okay, item 10 is discussion agenda. There was no items moved from the consent agenda. We'll move down to 11, construction program owners representatives business. 11.1 is program status report by the board's representative to the construction program. Mr. Destin, any updates?
Oh, just the same report I gave at the workshop. We're working on roofs. Have a lot of work being done on the security component, and we are under construction at Florosa. So things are going well.
Thank you, Mr. Destin. Okay, we're going to move to item 12, information technology seat management contract. Item 12.1, CACI task order number 2-137, revision 2, change order 1, OCSD A phone video intercom system, presented by Dustin Keith, specialist, seat management, and recommended by the superintendent for approval. And this is an action item.
I'll move it.
Dr. Kelly makes a motion.
Second.
Second, any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 4-0. Item 12.2, CACI task order number 2-142, OCSD mail meter archive to cloud migration, presented by Dustin Keith, specialist, seat management, and recommended by the superintendent for approval. This is an action item also.
I'll move it.
Dr. Kelly makes a motion.
Second.
Mr. Destin seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 4-0. 12.3, CACI IT seat management outsourcing agreement contract modification agreement change order 12, presented by Eric Mitchell, Director, MIS and Instructional Technology, and recommended by the superintendent for approval. And
I'll move it.
okay, we have a motion by Dr. Kelly.
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Vancheck. Any discussion?
I'll just say that thanks to the IT department for keeping us in the 21st, maybe 22nd century, trying to move us forward. I appreciate that, keeping us ahead of the curve.
Yep, and Eric has given us some more information that has to do with how many
I
districts
saw
are moving
that.
forward, and it appears all of them are in this endeavor. And we also had some discussions that allayed my fears about security, so we'll be in support of that.
Thank you, Mr. Horton.
Ms. Vancheck. Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, let's vote on it. All in favor? Okay, motion carries 4-0. We're going to move down to item 13, and that's attorney's business. Item 13.1, consideration of recommendations, updates, requests, and pending legal matters. Mr. McInnes?
No report tonight.
Thank you, sir. And now we're going to move down to 14, superintendent's business. 14.1 is out-of-state student trip request approved by the superintendent. That's information only. And 14.2, correspondence request and other matters addressed by the superintendent. Mr. Chambers.
Thank you, sir. I do have a few things. So First of all, I wanted to gauge the board's thoughts. So as you know, historically, we have a capital budget workshop, and just wanted to come before the board and get your thoughts on whether or not you would like to have a capital budget board workshop this year. I wanted to gauge your thoughts.
I would say I'm in favor of that.
I am too.
Can you give me a little more on that, Mr. Destin?
It's basically, we're looking at all the items that we think we should expend capital dollars on.
Yes.
And as we go forward, sometime, there's a long-range plan, but things change. And one of them, of course, is the security component of where we're going forward,
So that sounds very advantageous, yes, I would think so.
Beautiful. So Mrs. Scallon and Mr. Horton will be getting with the board chairman, and we'll set up that date. So I appreciate that very much and that guidance. Also, just wanted to let you know that the Niceville Valpy Chamber of Commerce, they have what's called a Civics Hall of Fame. And it was kind of neat to go there the other day, and we had two people from our school district, former people from our school district, who were anointed into or invited into the Hall of Fame. And one of them was a former board member, and Mr. Howard Hill. And I think a lot of you know him and his story and the great work that he did for the school board. And the other one, which was very interesting to hear the full history as well, was Addie R. Lewis. And I know that we all are excited when individuals from the school district achieve such high status in terms of being recognized like that, but I wanted to bring that to your attention.
And Mr. Chambers, I might just add they're all in District 5.
There you go. Yes, ma'am.
Of course, Dr. Kelly would get that in.
It is the Niceville Chamber of
That's
Commerce.
right.
That's
Niceville
right.
Valparaiso.
There you go.
Well, you gotta boost when you can.
That was a good one.
You've been taking
and
notes here lately, haven't you?
And as you know, we talked on Thursday. We gave a budget. We gave an update on the Choctawhatchee Stadium. And as you know, a couple of days have gone by, but there's been a lot of attention to that, and we paid special attention as well. So if you don't mind, I'd like for Mr. Horton to come up, kind of give an update on where we are.
And if, real quick before Mr. Horton speaks, I know the other night I got a message from the Shalimar Mayor, Mark Franks, and I just wanted to express that he was reaching out to help out whatever they can with the Choctaw, whatever the city of Shalimar can do. And I just wanted to express that's how the community's coming together to try to help Ms. Heck, who is out there right now. So.
And then Ms. Heck is here tonight and may have a few words as well, so appreciate the time, Superintendent Chambers. And to your point, Mr. Bryant, there has been tremendous interest and concern in Etheridge Stadium and its well-being. And so what I'd like to do tonight is give you an update. As I mentioned last Thursday, we're waiting on some structural engineering reports to come in. Those have not come in yet, but I wanted to share some things with you. I was at the stadium today with Mr. Chambers and Ms. Heck. We walked the stadium. We met with folks from the Daily News, and of course there is great interest in how that stadium's doing and when it'll be ready to host not only football games but other activities in the school. So I think coming out of that time today, there's absolutely a singularity of focus on the part of the school district, of Ms. Heck, obviously the board members, and the community to do whatever is needed to be done to get that stadium ready to go. And so it is the goal, obviously, to have Etheridge Stadium ready to host football games for Choctaw's first home game September 6th, their first regular season home game. So we have that timeline, and we're going through the process. And as I mentioned on Thursday, state law requires that all school district stadiums and bleacher facilities be inspected every 2 years. And there have been times in the past when different stadiums or bleachers needed repairs or whatnot based on those inspections. So the result of this inspection indicated that some issues that had developed at Etheridge needed some more focused attention before we could allow folks to be in the stadium. And again, we're looking out for the safety of the students, their families, and the entire Choctaw community. So we've got a goal out there of being ready by September 6th. Our construction management partner, Jacobs Titan, is staging and planning and doing some work when the structural engineer report comes in that says the type of remediation that's needed. We don't have one but two engineering firms taking a look at that, so I want to thank the Jacobs Titan Group for having 2 sets of eyes on everything, because it's that important that it gets done right. And it's not to slow a process down, but to ensure that the remediation that needs to happen happens correctly and in a timely manner. You may have heard, because there hasn't been anything official, but some discussion that certain areas of the stadium may be less in need of remediation than others, and so we won't know specifically until we get those engineering reports in. We're expecting those to come in this week, and that's what I said last Thursday as well. The timeline for it, again, will be determined, but I'm confident that we've got a great construction management partner that's going to give us the very best shot that we can to get this stadium remediated. And so we'll know more this week, and as we get information in, I'll be reaching out to board members, and obviously at every opportunity we can, the superintendent will share that information. Ms. Heck, if she's here, and I have a couple of things to mention, but if she's here and had a word or two to say, I'd like to invite her up as well.
Ms. Heck, if you would, please come to the front.
Board members, Mr. Chambers, as Mr. Horton explained, I did have an opportunity today to walk the stadium with Mr. Horton and Mr. Chambers. Not my first time to walk with this set of perspective and looking at Etheridge Stadium. I have the utmost confidence in the school district, the board, in working alongside of myself, my administrators, to make Etheridge Stadium right. I am overwhelmed by the support that not just the Choctaw community has showed in such a short period of time, but our entire community. It's unbelievable that my good friend John Spolsky at Fort Walton and Charlie Morello at Niceville and Dexter Day up north, even as far north as that is, they have all stood ready to help Choctaw's staff, Choctaw's students, so that we, if we needed to utilize their facility in any way, they've opened their arms, and I appreciate that. But I will tell you, every day that I have an opportunity to talk to Mr. Horton, who is speaking to, it seems like everyone that needs to be spoken to, we have more and more confidence that there's going to be a way for this fall season for our football teams, our band, all the groups that utilize our facility in our community prior middle school, that we'll be able to come up with a plan. It might look a little bit different. We're willing to be very creative for us to be able to use our home field. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for that you gave me an opportunity to just share my thoughts, but that you're supporting us to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Heck. And just a couple of other items kind of related. We got a chance to share that Etheridge Stadium was built in the 66, 67 timeframe. And so it speaks to what this board has mentioned before, a larger issue. There are those out there that maybe on social media have said, and rightfully so, let's just build a new stadium. It's 60 years old, let's build a new one. That same statement or comment could be rendered on any number of facilities in our district, on the 160 portables that we have. And so what we're saying here today is there are limited capital funds, and the superintendent's commitment is to get Etheridge Stadium up and running. But it speaks to a larger issue over a longer term. And I think that when you take a look at our capital budget, all of the capital money that comes into us, and Ms. Rita's here tonight, is about $29 million. But once we take out the things that we're obligated to do with that fund, those funds like pay our debt service, cover our seat management contract, which provides all of our technology resources for all of our students and employees across the district, and provide all of our maintenance pieces, we end up with about a little over $11 million this year. And you'll see that in the capital workshop that's coming up, to cover all of the capital needs for the district. That would include every roof that needs repairing, every outdoor piece of equipment that needs working on, all of the vehicles, if and when we do buy school buses, And then obviously at a premium this year is all of our safety and security measures. So what we're dealing with, and you're very aware of this, is a limited source of capital funding, and certainly we appreciate every penny we're given, and we do make do with what we have. And so it's just a matter of the facts of the aging of our facilities, and Etheridge Stadium is a symbol for that right now. And when we come up with an issue that involves the safety of students, we will pull resources toward it and make sure it happens. So you know it's a larger issue. I think the community understands it's a larger issue, and so I'm hopeful that all of the folks that are passionate, supportive about getting Etheridge Stadium repaired, and rightfully so, that you know it's a larger issue for the district.
I have a question of you.
Yes, ma'am.
You just mentioned the passion. 67 years of alumni, and I think everybody in this community knows about the Big Green alumni. And so through social media, and I think some more media that's now picking up, there have been some campaigns where people are literally putting money where their mouth is and donating. And my question is, what is our policy, and how does that work on private donations that might go together with the money that we have? How does that actually work if, they continue to build possibly a very good nest egg of money that could be used for Etheridge? I know for repairs. We're not talking about building new, we're talking about getting it and so forth. How does that actually work?
So I will let Ms. Scallon come and speak to that as it relates to donations, because you see as board members donation items on the board agenda regularly, but I'll let her speak to that.
And I think I saw it was a GoFundMe page.
Right.
Okay, what would happen is that those funds, when whatever the fundraiser is or the donation is, they would submit a letter stating what they wanted that money used for. If it was repairs of the Etheridge Stadium, and a check, we would receive that. The superintendent would recommend it for your approval. You'd approve it, and then we would put it in a specific project that those funds could only be used for those repairs.
Okay, but if on a GoFundMe, you might have smaller amounts than what you are maybe referring to. Like, people might get on there and give $25, $100, and they're just going to put it on there. So they're not going to be having a letter, but that's okay too? We can set up a GoFundMe?
That's okay, because somebody sponsored setting up that
Okay,
site. So that's going to be the person that, at the end of the day, collects and reconciles, how much is going to be turned over to us as a district.
And is there a way for individuals to go online and do it, not GoFundMe, but through to the district? Can't we do that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. We have our online payment system, and it will accept donations just like any other online fundraising activity. And in fact, with ours, sometimes with some external sites, the fee that they charge takes a significant amount of those donations. So we as a district always encourage individuals, if we know about it, to use our online system.
And there's no fee there?
There's a small fee, and it's to the person that is contributing the money or paying for it, but it's all in the amount they give.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you so much, Ms. Scallon.
I don't have anything other, unless there are some questions. Mr. Chambers?
I do have one other thing. So, as Mr. Horton stated, so Etheridge Stadium was built in 1966, 1967 area. And as you know, most of our high schools were built in that time frame as well. So, Mr. Horton, will you speak to what we've discussed in terms of normally these stadiums are inspected every 2 years, and we're looking at doing something a little bit differently?
Yeah, so those high schools get a lot of extra wear and tear on them. In most cases, middle schools participate on them. They've got varsity, JV, and sometimes freshman programs as well. So I think it might be prudent if, within the capital budget that we're bringing to you this upcoming year, a notice that we'd like to start inspecting those particular stadiums at least annually, which is a little bit more often than the statutory requirement. I think partly because of the age of our facilities, the location, we are near the Gulf and that salt water and other pieces, that we think it might be prudent to do that annually, so that 2 years don't go by, and maybe a year ago, this would have been something that we could have caught a little bit sooner. Again, I'm not the engineer on that, but it's something I think for the amount of money involved, I think it would be worth it. And we'll talk about that as we bring the capital budget to you for the upcoming year.
Any questions? Mr. Superintendent?
That is it. I appreciate it.
So now we're going to move down to 15 board members' announcements, requests for information, and I'm going to start with Dr. Kelly tonight. So.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Well, I will just say I spent the greater part of the day today at a school helping out where a principal new to her school will have a new AP, I think a new bookkeeper, and a new front office secretary. So we did a lot of the behind-the-scenes preparing that normally a big staff would do, but just to say that now we are in, you all know how I like to count down, we are 13 days away, 2 weeks, from teachers being back in the buildings. We are 21 days away or 3 weeks away from students being back in the building. This is the time of year that used to make me go crazy, so I'm glad I'm not going crazy. But so we are very, very close, and I'm constantly amazed at how our principals and their summer staffs are able to pull things together and pull off a wonderful start to the school year. And I think it's kind of like how you welcome guests at your door. The way you welcome your students, having everything prepared, and welcome your teachers, having everything prepared, really sets them off on the tone for a good new year. And I'm just so impressed every time I go into a school, and I know you visited schools too, and you see the preparation that's going on. So kudos to those staffs working in the summer to get ready. And then lastly, I'll just say a happy birthday today, happy 90th birthday to Jerry Melvin. And he predates me just a little bit. So for those of you who don't know Mr. Melvin, you should probably know a little bit about his history. If you will indulge me, just a 30-second history. I think it was in 1950 he got his broadcasting license and started being on the air. So we first knew him as an on-air personality. Then I think in 1954 he became manager of the Fort Walton Beach Chamber, and he did that until Bob Sykes, we all know that name, asked him to go with him and be his assistant at the Capitol. And then we saw him again in 1962. He was the executive manager of Okaloosa Islands Authority. And then in 68, he was first elected to the House of Representatives. And then again in 98, with a little gap in between, for a total of 18 years that he served as a representative. And so I just think that he has such a remarkable history. If any of you know or see Jerry Melvin, please be sure and wish him a happy 90th birthday. That's all I have.
Thank you, Dr. Kelly. Ms. Vanchek?
Yes, I want to remind everyone of the tax-free holiday coming up August 2nd that week. That's a good time to get out there and get those school supplies and everything. The other thing I want to address is our visitors tonight. This group has come to us several times. We saw a lengthy presentation at our workshop. They have done their homework and have shown us information. They obviously have a particular stance that they have, which is why they're here. However, for this board, to me, that's not the issue. Where we stand individually, and of course we don't take a stand as a board for anything like that. But a year ago, when I was a candidate for this position, it was important to me that the voters had a choice. And I promised those voters that I would, if they elected me, and I'm grateful they did, would stand up and listen to them as they told me, as they're a representative of them, that I would do and listen to them and make the best decision I could. And so doing that, I believe it's time for this board to ask our attorney to formulate the correct verbiage to send to our county commission that we will put on the ballot for March 2020 a referendum so that the citizens of Okaloosa County can be heard. We've heard some of them, but I believe our citizens want to look at this issue. And I've already asked this in a board meeting. There is no other avenue. We are the avenue. And as the governing body that has to move this, I'd like to move that we vote to give Mr. McGinnis the recommendation to formulate the verbiage to send to the county commission that we put on a March 2020 referendum on the ballot.
And real quick, Mr. McGinnis, this is something that I feel like she's made a recommendation, so how do we proceed from here?
The first thing would be to determine if there's a second to the motion, and then you would have to discuss it and vote on that.
Okay.
Chairman, if I may, and Ms. Vancheck, I would urge you to place this on the agenda at the next board meeting, because since it's an unagendaed item, it would take an extraordinary vote to prevail.
Yes, sir.
And so that means that almost everybody here would have to vote in favor tonight. If you put it on the next agenda meeting, then it just is a simple majority. So I would urge you to make your motion and agenda the item at the next meeting.
Okay, so that means I would have to change my motion to make it an agenda item for the next, is that the correct procedure?
You can do that, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I need to take back my original motion, correct? And I'm going to change my motion that we make this an agenda item for the next school board meeting. I don't have the date right on top of my head, but whatever that is, we need to put that,
Staff knows when it is.
put that on the agenda. So that's my new motion.
And I will second that so that we can discuss it at a public forum.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. And you would like to discuss? Is there a discussion?
Well,
we have to vote on it.
It's basically just that the discussion would be that can be an agenda item. People on both sides of the issue have an opportunity to show up, and we can have a spirited discussion on the issue then.
Yep.
Rather than if we did it tonight, obviously only one side of the issue has shown up, and as I
Exactly.
said, as an unagendaed item, it would take an extraordinary vote to go forward.
And thank you for bringing that, because I think it's important that we do hear both sides, which is why I'm basically bringing this forward. We need to hear the people.
So at this time, we have a motion and a second, and the motion is that we bring this to make an agenda item at our next board meeting.
That's our motion.
Okay. So all those in favor, raise your hand. Okay, all those against?
Well, that's a tie, isn't it?
That's a tie.
And we don't have our fifth member here tonight.
I think,
Now,
aren't there Robert's rules that prevail here?
right, what happens in the case of a tie?
Doesn't go forward.
Well, it's tied, so it doesn't pass. I mean, then there's no provision here to break the tie.
Now, at the time that the fifth member is here, it could be, at least it wouldn't be a tie, would it?
Right, and it can be brought up again. Okay, all right. Okay, so thank you, Mr. McGinnis. Thank you, Ms. Vancheck. Anything else that you would like?
No, thank you. I appreciate that.
Mr. Destin?
Oh, I don't have anything else, Chairman, other than to once again thank the teachers and the administrators who have placed this district at the very top of the state on the tests. It's a heck of a accomplishment, and to do it year after year after year is even more difficult. So they deserve all the praise.
And so moving on to item 16 is 16.1, members of the public desiring to address the school board, Form MIS 5241, public input and/or discussion of agenda items. And this is the part where anybody from the public can come and speak. You have 2 minutes, and you do have to fill out a blue card too. So anybody here would like to speak? All right, seeing that there's no public comment, we've already done 17.1, and before we adjourn, I'm gonna ask staff, Ms. Gallen, do you have anything you'd like to present? Mr. Horton, Ms. Lightbourne, Dr. Hale, Greg Butler with the association? Jordan, Ms. Appleberg, if you would.
Hi, Board. As you might have already known, that the association met with the district today in negotiations on our contract, and I am thrilled to say that for the first time since 2016, we came to an agreement in one day and we have an agreement before school starts. I would like to take this moment to thank Mr. Chambers and thank Dr. Hale, Ms. Scallon, and the rest of their team for working hard with us. And I'd also like to thank Ms. Angelique Cox, which is our chief negotiator. Thank you.
That's fantastic. Great to hear that.
It really is.
Great. Good for you. Yeah.
All right, and at this time, we are going to adjourn the meeting. We're adjourned.
All right, good job.
Thank you, sir.